zoning out mid-conversation isn't always a lack of attention. Sometimes it's a sign of how your mind actually works. Let me show you what's really going on. Imagine this. You're sitting with a friend. They're explaining something, maybe a story, maybe something important. You're listening, at least you think you are, and then suddenly, your brain latches onto one small detail, a word, a tone, a random thought. And before you know it, you're gone. Not physically, mentally. Now you're thinking about something completely different. Maybe something they said reminded you of a memory, or a worry, or something you forgot to do. And while they're still talking, your mind is already somewhere else, building ideas, replaying moments, connecting dots that don't even belong to the conversation anymore. This is where people get it wrong. They think zoning out is your brain failing to focus. But in many cases, it's actually your brain doing too much. Your mind isn't empty, it's overloaded. There's this concept in psychology called the default mode network. It's basically the part of your brain that activates when you're not focused on the outside world. It's responsible for daydreaming, reflecting, imagining, thinking about yourself, your past, your future. And for some people, this network is very active, almost too active. So when you're in a conversation, especially one that isn't highly stimulating, your brain can slip into this mode without you even realizing it. It's like your mind says, "This isn't urgent, let me go somewhere else for a second." And just like that, you drift. But here's the interesting part. People who zone out mid-conversation are often the same people who think deeply. They're the ones who replay moments, who analyze things, who connect ideas in ways others don't. Their brains are constantly searching for meaning, patterns, significance. So when someone is talking, their mind doesn't just hear words, it expands them. A simple sentence can trigger a chain reaction of thoughts, and suddenly, the conversation becomes a doorway, not a destination. Have you ever noticed that you don't zone out the same way with everything? When something is intense, emotional, or directly engaging, you're locked in, fully present, almost hyper-aware. But when the conversation feels repetitive, slow, or predictable, that's when your brain starts wandering. It's not random, it's selective. Your attention isn't broken, it's just picky. There's also another layer to this. Emotional safety. Sometimes zoning out isn't just about boredom or overthinking. It can be your brain's quiet way of protecting you. If a conversation feels overwhelming, uncomfortable, or even just slightly stressful, your mind might pull away without asking you. Not dramatically, not in a way you can control, just enough to create distance. It's like your brain is saying, "Let's step out for a second." And you don't even notice it happening. This is why some people zone out more in certain situations, with certain people, in certain environments. It's not always about the conversation itself. It's about how your brain feels inside it. And then there's something even more subtle. Cognitive load. Your brain can only hold a certain amount of information at once. Thoughts, emotions, distractions, background noise, internal dialogue, it all adds up. So when you're already thinking about something else, even something small, and someone starts talking, your brain is basically juggling too many things at the same time, and eventually something drops. Usually, the conversation. You might still hear the words, but you're not processing them. It's like watching a movie while scrolling your phone. You're technically seeing it, but you're not really there. And the moment you realize you zoned out, there's that split second of panic. Wait, what did they just say? And now you're trying to piece things together from fragments, smiling, nodding, hoping they don't ask you a question. We've all been there. But here's something most people don't realize. Zoning out doesn't mean you don't care. In fact, sometimes it happens because you care too much. Because your brain is busy analyzing, interpreting, feeling, connecting. It's not ignoring the conversation, it's just processing it in a different way. The problem is, real-time conversations don't wait. They move forward whether your brain is ready or not. And if your mind drifts for even a few seconds, it can feel like you've missed everything. There's also a link between zoning out and imagination. People who have vivid inner worlds, who can visualize, reflect, and mentally explore ideas, tend to slip into their thoughts more easily. Their brain isn't just reacting to reality, it's constantly creating one. So a simple conversation can turn into a full mental experience. A memory becomes a story, a word becomes a scene, a thought becomes a spiral, and before you know it, you're not in the conversation anymore. You're in your head. Now, this can feel frustrating, especially when it affects your relationships, when people think you're not listening, when you miss important details, when you feel disconnected even when you're physically present. But here's the shift. What if zoning out isn't something you need to fix, but something you need to understand? Because the same brain that drifts is also the brain that reflects deeply, the brain that notices things others miss, the brain that builds ideas, imagines possibilities, and connects emotions in a way that's hard to explain. It's not a weak brain, it's a busy one, a layered one, a mind that doesn't just stay on the surface. Of course, awareness matters. Noticing when you drift, gently bringing yourself back, maybe even being honest sometimes. Hey, I zoned out for a second, can you repeat that? Because being present isn't about being perfect. It's about returning, again and again. And maybe, instead of judging yourself for zoning out, you start getting curious about it. What pulled your attention away? Was it boredom, overthinking, emotion, stress, imagination? Because every time your mind drifts, it's revealing something about how you process the world. And the more you understand that, the less it feels like a flaw, and the more it feels like insight. So next time you catch yourself halfway through a conversation, realizing you've been gone for the last few seconds, don't just think, "What's wrong with me?" Maybe ask something different. Where did my mind just go? And why? Because the answer to that question might tell you more about yourself than the conversation ever could. And if this happens to you more than you'd like to admit, you're definitely not alone. In fact, I'd be curious. When you zone out, where does your mind usually go?